Well, now I'm excited to introduce you to another agency partner of Tickets for Kids. Jim Sonyu is the principal of Lincoln K through 8 school in Rochester, Minnesota, and he's joined by a special guest, Abdi Ahmed. And we welcome both of you gentlemen to the breakfast here this morning. And Jim, let's start with you and tell us a little bit about your school and the link that you have with Tickets for Kids.
Good morning. So happy to be here. And again, thanks to Susan, Jason, Jill, and I'm going to throw in Rob and Laura Neuenschwander. They started up with Ticks for Tots a long time ago, and then Tickets for Kids has taken over. Rob and Laura, you got to be so happy with what they continue to do for our community. It's awesome. So thanks to all of you and all the donors that help make these possibilities. So I'm coming from Lincoln K-8 here in Rochester, Minnesota, about 500 students, and with ties to lots of different kids and organizations in our community. And so lots of students that really never get to go up to the cities very often unless we make an opportunity for them through these great opportunities like we've talked about. And Abdi, which we'll talk about in a minute, he's a lifetime friend thanks to the Tickets 20 years ago. I've known this young man since 6th grade. 20 years ago, we started going to Timberwolves games, and the impact has been great. So I'll dig back to you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how you use the tickets as incentives in your school, motivation, and the connection that you think the Tickets for Kids program has between the administration, you as the principal, and the student body.
You know, the motto is you said it earlier, you never know the impact of a single ticket. And what we can find, we know that it's stories of kids and families and what they're going through, what they have, what they don't have, what they might need at a certain time. We know if a kid just lost their dog or lost a pet or lost a parent, that they need some joy in their life. And there's plenty of that to go around, right? And so I've seen it firsthand, just what it can do. Look at that picture of the little kid with Jaylee is her name. She's got the baseball, and I've been to many Twins games. I've never gotten a foul ball or home run in my life. I've always been a goal of mine. Look at the picture right there. A gentleman got the foul ball and she saw her eyes and he handed it to her. And it looks like she just had the world right in her hands. I've been to the World Series win in 1991. And that moment was by far the best. The joy that brought to that little kiddo with her first family and her first experience at any major league game. So she'll never forget that. I run into kids all across this. I've been a principal for 20 years or so. And people will stop me in the grocery store and say, do you remember when we went to the Kenny Chesney concert? Do you remember when we sang on the bus? You remember all these things? And I'm like, I do. Those are the things that matter to kids and things that just, fill their lives up. And they'll never forget those experiences, only made possible through all of you.
Well, Jim, let's let you circle back and introduce Abdi and tell the story that you two have shared. You mentioned it's been a long-term relationship, another blessing that's come out of the ticket program, because now you two, I know, are going to be friends for life.
Abdi moved in from North Carolina, and he was a little edgy. He was the guy had tons of potential, and you could just see it in him. And I wanted to try to connect with him in a way. And so in talking to him, he'd never been to a major league game. He loved basketball. And so I'm like, would you ever want to go to a game? And he jumped on the opportunity. We went to several events. And when he was, so this was 6th grade, and as a senior, he wrote me a 4-page letter on thanking me for the mentorship and what it meant. And kind of just summarize a little bit. He said, people don't build up walls or barriers to keep people out. They build them up to see who was going to come in. And, and that's been it's just guided us through all these things to make sure that we're connecting with kids. And these events, these tickets were ways for us to connect. Otherwise, it would have been like, what else are we going to talk about? So also in the letter, he talked about when I got lost on the way back, and he thought that was pretty funny. We thought, it's not just the event. You don't know the impact because it's everything around it. It's going up. It's seeing the crowd beforehand. It's getting some concessions. It's going through the revolving doors. It's the talks on the way back about his girlfriend and about his family and shoes and basketball. And it's all in these things back from kids that it's such an experience. So you never know the single impact of one ticket. So back to Abdi. Yeah, we've just continued that. And Abdi's battling cancer and he's winning. He's winning that battle. And I'll let him talk a little bit about that. But the funny thing is the single impact of a ticket, Abdi's little brother was watching all this, and his little brother was motivated by that and then took him to some events as well. Well, his little brother, Ahmed, became a Rhodes Scholar, for crying out loud. So anyway, Abdi, take over.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Sonia. You're too generous. So great to see everyone. First, thank you to Tickets for Kids team, like Susan, all of it. You guys are just rock stars. And thank you to all the donors for supporting this. When Sonia asked me to be on this, I was honestly just absolutely ecstatic, right? I remember sixth grade walking into his science class. Like I still like remember it to this day. And I still remember the first game we went to, which was a Timberwolves game. So it's just fascinating, like the level of impact and how that relationship had just continued so much. And as he asked me to come on, like I came from a single mother home, and like we grew up low SES, and like think of all your low poverty impacts. I mean, my mom couldn't afford any of these other luxuries or any of these other aspects, like access to like games or any of that. So I knew that, but you watch it so often on TV that you know something's possible, you just don't connect with it, though. You don't know it's possible for you. So as I thought about it when Sonia asked me to come on, is that what is like Tickets for Kids about? Like, what is the impact? Well, it's exposure, right? And as I thought about it, is that it allows you to introduce a new reality. And for me, it was a new reality that I was introduced to. Like, there's new people, new experiences, and like I can do something different. When all you know or had known was just like poverty or violence and just being in neighborhoods that were just like not good, that's the cycle that you kind of tend to be in your worldview at that time. Even for me, as I recall, was like more narrow and just a lot smaller. And it's weird, but like going to a game, like you walk into a stadium and it's huge, but the peripheral impact of that is that that's life. Like I'm no longer a racehorse running with my blinders on with a very narrow worldview. It's like I'm a wild horse and the field is open and I can go anywhere. I thought of an analogy that like really kind of stuck with me. And that's kind of how I felt Tickets for Kids kind of impacted me in my relationship with Sanyu. And I mean, I could go on and on, but at the end of it, I realized that the impact of this is exposure. And what those micro moments do is it allows those kids to actually have that exposure. And that's what I had. And it bled into having those moments with my brother and allowing him to see a bigger worldview of like what's possible. So I thank you all for donating. If you donated 20 years ago, I was probably part of that crowd. And as you continue to, I'm sure there'll be plenty of other kids that are just going to be insanely impacted by it. So thank you.
If I can just add, Abdi he hits so much about the exposure. You know, in education, we talk to kids about working hard, you know, giving your best effort, getting to school, doing all these things, but sometimes they don't see the connection to what that can mean. And what are you talking about? The better things in life and all these things. And so when you can put it firsthand, like this is out there, they say, oh, now I see what you're talking about. I see what that is. And so we build in some incentives or some ways to get out of their thinking and open it up. So that's been awesome.
Well, it may be the greatest measure of the impact that this has had, Abdi. You might be the only teenager I know who ever penned a 4-page letter to anybody. So what possessed you to be so inspired to want to undertake writing a lengthy letter of gratitude as you did?
That's such a great question, Dick. And I don't know, I think it was one of those feelings of like just understanding the impact Sanyu had on my life, honestly. Like I was a senior. My family, none of my parents ever went to college. Like none of my siblings did. My sister went to RCTC first, and that kind of gave me a possibility that I could go to college. So, but in that letter, I just remember as I graduated high school, I felt tremendous amount of like just connection and like gratitude for Sanyu being there, because as a single mother, my mom couldn't be at any of my games, right? I played, as Sonia talked about, I played basketball, and I played sports year round. Like my parents couldn't be at games, and but he would show up and he would take me to games. And I remember in the car ride, he got lost. But as I reflected now as an adult, it's like that's time away from his own kids. That's time away from his family. That's time away that he's not with the people that he loves as well, and he's doing this for me. So what, like the gratitude that I felt, it's like it wasn't enough in a paper, and I think I don't even know if I captured it, but it's a lot as I reflect back now as an adult and as a working professional, right? And like all the obligations that you have in life, and it's just like it's moments like these that people are extending themselves to connect with you and allow you to gain a new exposure and like see the world in a different way that builds on itself. And it's just my micro moments. And that's the gratitude that I was trying to capture. I haven't read it. I don't remember all the things that I wrote about it, but I know it's been sitting on his desk for years and years and years. And it makes me happy. So yeah, that's what I tried to capture in it.
Abdi,
The
thanks.
funny
so much
thing is,
for-
sorry, Nick, the funny thing is, we think we're giving to kids or they're giving back to us, just like that love and that joy. And Abdi still, you'd called me this week and said, hey, have you gotten active? Did you go out for a walk after you eat? So you know what? They take care of us more than we took care of them.
Abdi, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck in your future endeavors. And Jim, don't worry about it. You're not the only one who's been wiping tears this morning. Wonderful, wonderful story. And we thank you both very, very much.